What's up, you guys? My name is Preston James here at the Laughing Buddha Recording Studio here in Los Angeles, California, bringing you another amazing video and mix album review, breakdown, consensus, whatever we want to call it. And as you can tell, because you clicked on it, we are doing Myles Smith, A Minute, A Moment. Let's get into it. All right, you guys, so as you know, if you watch my previous videos, we like to get into the people behind the scenes, the people who make the record sound the way that it does, right? We give appreciation and love to the artist. A lot of us know about producers, even though we may not know what they do exactly, and we know what songwriters do, more or less, right? But a lot of us are not in tune with knowing what the mixing engineers and the recording engineers do. So I like to shed light on the people that are in my field of work, which is mixing and not so much mastering for me, but recording and mixing is what I primarily do here at the Laughing Buddha. So Myles Smith, A Minute, A Moment. I'd never heard of Myles Smith until this album came out. Some of you know if you watch my other videos, I like to listen to music every Friday when it comes out, when it drops. Technically Thursday night at 9 p.m. here on the West Coast. But when I saw that album, I clicked on it and was just in awe. I thought that I was like, why haven't I not heard of this guy previous to this? Turns out that his EP, so it wasn't even a full album, it was just an EP, an extended play, I think is what the correct terminology, came out last year in 2024, and that was called A Minute. And that is the second half of this kind of deluxe album, A Minute, A Moment. It's a combination of the two. He separated it on the disc or on you don't even call it a disc anymore, but on the screen, I guess you could say it's like disc 1 and disc 2, or part 1, part 2. So he added some new stuff to it to give it to make it a full album. But I was surprised, because why have I not heard of this guy? He's very good, very talented, and he's taken the world by storm, and I can definitely see why. He's got a soothing voice. He's got a kind of, I want to lean in and listen to what this guy is saying and talking about. It's almost like he has this sadness, but it somehow brings you joy as you're listening to it, and you want to sing along. You want to hear his story. You want to get involved. And that's what attracted me to it as soon as my ears heard and laid ears upon the music and the tracks. A couple songs that I really like is Gold. All My Life is like one that me and my daughter, my 3-year-old, vibe out to in the car. She really likes that song. Dreamers and Waste with James Bay. Those are some of the ones that we really like. I think that overall, I would give this album an 8, maybe 9 out of 10. A solid 8 for sure. I really like it. I think he's just starting, right? He's got a lot of room to grow, just in the limelight. I don't know about his previous history in the music scene in the UK, but I know that he is going to do big things from what it sounds like. What I heard specifically on this album was I heard a lot of vocal stacks. A lot of vocal work was really well done by the mixing, by the producers, possibly the songwriters and producers as well, but by the mixing engineer and how they blended together. The vocal stacks sounded very lush, big reverbs. I liked that the vocal was the center of attention, but you could hear every detail with the instrumentation as well. But your attention and your focus is on the vocal. It's very upfront. It's very big. It's very crispy. It's very in your face, but not enough to like distract you from also the instrumentation and production going on as well. The guitars sound very soothing, very crispy as well. Like they have this texture that they never leave your ear while listening to the song. Like you hear the vocal, you can hear the drums, but the guitars are always present, always in rhythm to everything else going on. It's blended together very well. This is just my take. This is just what I hear and what I feel when I listen to this album. It felt personal, like I said, when he's talking to you, the vocals so up front, it felt personal. It's almost like he's talking to you and to the people listening to the record. So I really like that aspect when you can get across that feel. I think that comes from songwriters, producers, but also mixing engineers, right? When they're putting elements of the song and the project together, they're making sure that that comes across to the listener. And that's not always an easy thing to do. So shout out to Michael Freeman, who is the mixing engineer for this, but we'll get into that. Overall, the reverb there's lots of big reverb and big sounds of delay going on throughout the record, but it's not overly done. It's done just enough to make the vocal and the instruments feel like they're in the right place. Again, that's another thing that I think is not an easy thing to do, is to make everything feel like it's supposed to be there. And no matter how big the effects are, right, it sounds like that's how it's supposed to sound, right? It's not like, oh, they should have done this or they should have done that. No, it sounded exactly like it should sound, like it's supposed to sound, like it was just made that way naturally and in the first place without anything else done. So shout out to everybody and all the writers and producers and engineers involved. Great album, great work. It's awesome. We love it. Got to give a shout out to a couple of the producers, Andrew Wells, Aaron Ebbage. Sorry if I slaughter these names. I do apologize. The Monsters, Myles Smith, of course, Peter Finn, The Strangers, and Will Bloomfield. I try to find as much information on these albums and these engineers, writers, and producers as I can. So if I leave anybody out, I do apologize. I try to get everybody, especially when I list them here on the screen. But some of the writers involved is All Day. If you haven't listened to All Day's independent work, like his projects, his albums, listen to him. He's really good too. But I think he was or is a writer, and that's how he came up initially. Don't quote me on that either. But All Day, Andrea Roca, Andrew Wells again, Daniel Smith, James Bay, of course, Jesse Fink, Jordan K. Johnson, Myles Smith again, of course, Peter Finn, and Will Bloomfield again. Andrew Wells seems to be across the board on this album as the producer. He did some of the instrumentation as well, some of the writing. So it seems like he was pretty heavily involved in this project. But he did numerous things across the board, working with Myles on this. But he's worked with people like Jason Mraz, Halsey, Lisa from Blackpink, Fall Out Boy, and Rosé, I think is how you say her name, from Blackpink. I liked her new album too. That song Bruno Mars was really good. It's a great song. But yes, Andrew Wells has worked with numerous other people as well. These are just a list of some of the top tier clients that he's worked with. So there's a guy on this that I found some information on. His name's Ramira, or it's a her. I apologize. Ramira Abraham. Not really too sure, but I think that was the recording engineer. I couldn't find specific information about the recording engineer for this album, for the instrumentation or the vocals. So that's what I did find, was Ramira Abraham was credited with engineering, but wasn't specific about what that engineering was exactly. Like I said before, the mixing engineer, the one that I get to, that I get most excited about, because that's what I love to do, is Michael Freeman. Michael Freeman has worked with people like Myles Smith, obviously, Benson Boone, Young Gravy, 5 Seconds of Summer, Kid Bloom, and the list goes on. Michael Freeman, I want to give a little background and context to him real quick. He was the first graduating class of engineers from Blackbird Studios in 2014. So he was the first class to come out of Blackbird once they started doing those programs and those classes for engineers. Blackbird is a studio in Nashville, Tennessee, or more specifically Berry Hill, but is founded by John and Martina McBride in 2002. The Blackbird Studios, they are known for having a bunch of vintage gear and all this equipment. So just gear, microphones, guitars, amps, pianos, all these different things. I know that Dave Pensato has ranted and raved about them. And I've heard the name Blackbird for the last few years. Never really dove into it to look myself. But once I was doing some research on this album and came across Michael Freeman, and that's where he went, I did a little bit more research. Again, about the two people who founded the place in 2002. John is an audio engineer, John McBride, and his wife, Martina, is a country singer, or was a country singer. And so they had a lot of help forming this facility and this, I almost said compound, but this studio with Vance Powell. Vance Powell has been in the industry for a long time. I've heard that name ever since I started in music. I've been seeing his name pop up. I've watched videos on him on Fab's website, Pure Mix. He does some tutorials and breakdowns of songs on there, and he's a phenomenal engineer. But he helped really get the Blackbird Studios to where it's at today. This transition, because they had bought the studio and the recording facility from somebody else, and it was I don't know what it was before, but it had something to do with music, but it wasn't like it is today. And even having classes like we're talking about with Michael Freeman, having the ability to do that, it wasn't ever like that. But Vance Powell helped help it form its new path and take on its new role. And if you haven't heard about Vance Powell before, he's a 6-time Grammy-winning engineer. He does extensive work with Jack White. I know that's like his main prime bread and butter, the White Stripes, all of Jack White's side stuff. He does Chris Stapleton. He works with Chris Stapleton, Kings of Leon, Keb Mo, Buddy Guy, Danger Mouse, The Dead Weather, Jewel, Jessica Simpson, and that list goes on and on and on and on. So Vance Powell is accredited with so many good and talented artists throughout the industry over the years that he has definitely paid his due, and just we thank you, Vance. Thank you for your service, sir. You have done a great job. We appreciate you. But like I said, the Blackbird Studio is a very well-known, renowned studio within the industry. This is where Freeman started. He said in an interview, like I said, they have something like 14 251s, and that's Telefunken 251 microphones. And if you know anything about that, those microphones, which is, you can see anybody using those from Jay-Z to J. Cole, to various different artists, but that's like a $14,000 to $16,000 microphone and up. Like, those are not cheap microphones. And I had watched a video with Help Me Devon and his boys, and they were talking about how basically at that point, when you're paying that much money, 10 to 15 to 20 to even $30,000 for microphones, you're not necessarily paying for the gear and parts within the microphone itself. You're paying more for individuality, authenticity. It's different. Like, you're going to sound different and unique compared to other people. And you have your own kind of sonic signature, kind of, right? Like, that's what you're buying. That's what the money's buying you. But it is a phenomenal mic, right? That's not to discredit the mic at all. It's a phenomenal piece of hardware. So Freeman, he started there, and then eventually came out to LA and started working at East West Studios. And if you haven't seen or heard of East West Studios, please check that out. That facility is amazing. It's off Sunset Boulevard. It has numerous rooms, beautiful rooms for recording vocals, guitars, pianos, drums, like anything you can imagine, choirs. And of course, they just, they do it up. They're a well-known studio here in LA, but he really got to start there when he moved out after graduating from Blackbird, came out, did some work under Spike Stent. And I think, I think Spike Stent has notably worked with Madonna, Muse, Lady Gaga, Maroon 5, so many more, and so many more. But that's where he got his first kind of in the game and in the foot in the door for the music industry. And then after working with Stint for a while, he ended up working on Dua Lipa's album on the song Cool and Break My Heart from Future Nostalgia. And if you haven't heard Future Nostalgia, please do yourself a favor and listen to that album. That album is one of my all-time favorite pop albums, top 5, hands down. Every single song on that album is 10 out of 10. I love that album. It was during COVID when I heard it, and I couldn't stop listening to it. My daughter loves it. She's 3. She's like all about the song Levitating right now. But let me not get too far off track. Michael Freeman, the engineer for Myles Smith's album, A Moment. He, after working on those songs, he was in the door, got through into the music industry after working with Spike Stent, And the rest is really history. Now he's kind of doing his own thing. Freeman is also known for using analog gear, which is kind of like my process as well, is using analog gear for recording. So that's using actual hardware and certain microphones to use to get into Pro Tools or into your DAW. So you're using certain tools physically to get into your recording system, whatever that may be and whatever you're using. And then mixing wise, he does digitally for the most part, he says. Now, that's not always the case with people, right? There's engineers who do both, but there's also engineers who strictly just do hardware. And I find it very far in between for engineers who do all digital. It's mostly a hybrid of hardware on the way in and then just digital mixing. But there are some that just do digital and that's it. But yes, so that is his bread and butter. Hardware on the way in, analog, and then digital for mixing itself. And I wish I could tell you more specifically. About the hardware and the microphones that he used for Myles Smith's album and what he did. And I wish they just had more information about that for people like myself and you guys watching this video of what are these engineers, recording engineers and mixing engineers and producers using to record the vocal, to record the guitars. And some of us like myself, we nerd out a little bit more on it, but it would be nice to know what people are using to get the certain sound that they do for the records, right? Some of these records that we fall in love with, I think it would be cool to know what exactly and how exactly they recorded those songs. Sometimes people would say, I think that sometimes people would think that is kind of like taking the magic away, but I disagree. I think even if you know that, it's not like you could recreate it technically, right? Having all the people in the same place at the same time or at the right time in the right place with the right energy and the right vibe, that's what creates it. The performance creates the song first and foremost, and then the gear comes next. But it still would be really cool to know how these engineers kind of put these albums together. And last but not least, for the mastering engineer, Joe Laporta. Joe Laporta has worked with David Bowie, Miley Cyrus, Future and Metro Boomin, Run the Jewels, Shawn Mendes. The list definitely goes on. I've seen his name a bunch of times as I've done my album reviews. If you've watched any of my other ones, you've seen his name pop up before. But he works out of Sterling Sound Studios in New Jersey. He has his own room there, I believe. He prefers to use analog gear solely. So when mastering, if you don't know what mastering is, that's the last step before the record company's like, all right, let's release this to the world or let's approve it. The mastering is the final stage where they boost and cut frequencies to just make everything enhanced. They enhance everything. Now, whether they do that digitally through just software on a computer or they do that with gear, like I was just talking about, is obviously totally up to that specific mastering engineer. But it is a talent and skill in its own right. And I think a lot of people have lost touch with that. And a lot of studios, low-end studios like myself, but I don't do this, I don't master, but other people in videos will talk about mastering. But I think that is its own skill that really has to be done by a mastering engineer. Just like mixing, but mastering, I feel like people are just don't give it enough credit. And so I hope that changes, even with this AI wave happening, but mastering engineers should definitely get the credit due. So shout out Joe Laporta. But he works out of Sterling Sound, like I said, prefers to use analog gear over digital gear. He's known to run his stuff through half-inch tape. He'll run it through half-inch tape, which gives a certain sound and feel to the audio, to the music. And a lot of engineers have been known to do this more in the past than more recently. But there's a certain sound and texture that tape gives audio. It gives sound. It gives it a certain feel. And so he likes to do that sometimes, not always. I found as much information on him as I could. I like the gear that he uses. He likes to use a Shadow Hills mastering compressor, an Avalon VT 747 SP, which is a tube compressor. He likes to use the Sonic MES 432, which is a parametric EQ. These are all specific to mastering tools. You can use them for other things. It doesn't mean that you have to use them just for mastering. but they are intended and made for the last stage of the record process, which is the mastering stage. He also uses a Tube Tech SMC2B, which is like a multi-band compressor. He says he also uses a Pultec to give it warmth and mid-range control at the end. So did he use that on this album? No, not necessarily, but those are some of the tools that he famously uses and has talked about in interviews. Joe is also known for getting the mixes loud, right? That's another thing that the mastering engineer does, is he gets the mix loud, or the song loud, I should say. But it's more about the feel for Joe. Can I get across the feeling, right? The mixing engineer, the producers, the songwriters, and the artists have captured this feeling. Can I take that and enhance it and make it loud as well, but maintain that feeling and that vibe and that energy? And if not, give it even more vibe and energy through the tools that he uses. And I think that, again, is a skill and a, what's the word I'm looking for? Skill and a talent in and of itself. So overall, Joe is an amazing mastering engineer. If you listen to the record, you can just hear it, right? Everything sounds good. Michael Freeman did an amazing job. They all did an amazing job. Michael Freeman, Joe LaPorta, as well as Andrew Wells. They all did an amazing job. Same with the writers and all the other producers. You guys killed it. You did a great job. I think one of the biggest takeaways for me from doing this research on the engineers and the producers and writers was that, at least, no, I shouldn't say writers and producers. I should say mixing and mastering. What I took away from this, for the rest of you mixing and mastering engineers out there, is listen, critical listening. Critical listening is the thing that we should do more of, instead of just reaching for tools and putting things on the master or putting things on our mix bus or on the vocal. Is that when we sit down to mix, we should listen, really critically listen to what we're hearing and figure out what it is that we want to do and what we want to achieve before we start grabbing tools to make something happen. That's something that I really took away from this. So again, shout out Michael Freeman and Joe LaPorta. Much respect and much love. And that's it. I know I went through this super fast. That's my intention. Some of the other videos I did, they were just a little too long. So I wanted to cut these down and just run through it. I will definitely be doing more here soon. So stay tuned. This one, Myles Smith, A Minute, A Moment. If you haven't listened to it, please listen to it. I appreciate you guys stopping in and checking this out. Love you guys. Be safe. And until the next video, I'll see you soon.